Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Playground Sessions YouTube channel. It is such a pleasure to be here with you guys today. I've got a special guest coming up. If you were just born today, then maybe you don't know who it is. Otherwise, I'm sure you guys are fans. I'm really excited to introduce this guy. He's a friend of mine, a coworker, and just an inspiring person, let alone pianist. We're going to get to him in just a second here, but first I want to give you guys a chance to win a free song credit for our interactive app. Now, those who have been following the channel for a while know that I like to give out free song credits by doing what I call pop quizzes. I like to throw out a question here live, and then as you guys write your answers in the chat live, I can pick correct answers and we will issue out free song credits. It's pretty fun. If you don't have the interactive app yet, you got to take advantage of a free trial we're doing. Just for YouTubers here. It's 30 days, no strings attached. playgroundsessions.com/YouTube-free-trial. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get it popping here with our first pop quiz. So, spoiler alert, our guest today is David Sides, and this question has to do with David. You may know him as one of Playground Sessions' co-founders. You may not know that, but you probably also do, that he's got a really popular YouTube channel where he posts cover videos of his own arrangements of some of his favorite songs, and they're awesome. So my question to you guys is, what was David's first cover video that he posted on his channel to hit 1 million views? I think several of them do, but what was the first one to hit 1 million? It's one of my favorites of David's. Let me know in the chat. We're looking for the first 3 correct answers. Every one of you will get a free song credit. So, and I see David's in the chat here. As well. He'll be joining me in a live call here in just a minute. David, don't give it away here. What's the first song cover video on David's channel that he posted to hit 1 million views? I'll give you a little waiting music here as I let you guys type. Let's see. Okay, well, instead of me saying the correct answer, why don't we have the man himself jump in? Let's go ahead and bring David in. David Sides, can you hear me, my friend?
I hear you. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Everybody
This
in the
was
chat.
A fun question.
Did you know the answer, David?
I think I had to look it up. I see the correct answer being written down. Apologize.
Yes, Apologize. A classic. What key is that in, by the way, David? I think is it C minor?
Oh, man. I think it's C minor. Yep. I believe so.
Yeah, what a beautiful song. And
you know,
and
after all this time, man, it's still one of my most favorite things to play on a piano. Anytime I go to a piano, whether I'm out and about at a hotel lobby or something. I was actually just at a hotel a couple weeks ago, ran into a piano, and sure enough, I sat down and played Apologize.
Yeah, man. You go back to the classics, man. It's true. Yeah. Chris Vance, our CEO, also loves to play that one.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah, that was really fun.
So you heard David, everybody. The correct answer was Apologize. And I told you guys we would do the first 3 correct answers. So it looks like Elton John is our first winner. It looks like Robert Atkins is our next winner. And it looks like Ruth Elrod. Apologize. Great job, you guys. So if this is new for you and you haven't won a free song credit before, you're going to want to email support@playgroundsessions.com, and you're going to want to say, "Dear Andrew, I want a free song credit in the YouTube Live. Give me my song credit." No, but you could be nicer than that. And Andrew will hook you up. Great work, you guys. So here we are with David Sides. I just want to take a second to acknowledge everybody in the chat. I see some familiar names. I see some new names. What's up, Lynn Stewart? Elton John, John Anderson in the building. Hey, Charles Smith. Hey, Chris Carlson. Who are you seeing, David?
Oh yeah, Lily's in the house. Hi, Lily. How you doing? See Meatloaf Crazy. I'm not sure if I've met you before, but thanks for joining. I see Dennis Roth. Yeah, this is a nice little crew here.
Yeah.
This is nice. I love doing these. It's been a long time, Phil, since I've been on with you and did this. I think, in fact, the last time I was on with you was when we had that big storm in New York. Remember the lightning flashing and everything?
And you were in your apartment with the bridge view, skyline view. We all missed that. You probably miss it the most. But
yeah, definitely.
I remember that. There was some crazy lightning going down.
Yeah, but this is fun. I love being able to get on with you and to chat with some of our users. This is great.
Yeah, man. I mean, we got such a great active group of students. We love checking in with you guys when we can. And David, you guys may not know, I mean, he's a co-founder and he's obviously a teacher and a pianist, but David does so much in the company beyond just the music side of things. Whether it's marketing and ads, whether it's just general operations stuff, working with the development team, the tech team. So as great as a teacher as he is, and we all miss him being on camera as much as he was in the past, he's touching so much in the company now. So it's a treat when we can have him on, especially live. So it's a pleasure to have you, David.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Man. So we want to talk about some things today, but I really just want to kind of get a conversation going and take your guys, the viewers, cues from the chat. So let's get some questions for David going. If you haven't written one yet, let's throw them in. And we're going to really prioritize that today. But in the meantime, we look to user voice to see what kinds of topics you guys wanted to talk about in general. And one that bubbled up to the top was how to get the most out of the app, right? So that was a topic I thought David and I could at least kick off the conversation with, and you guys can frame your questions around that or not, but we're going to kind of use that as a general framework for today. I just got done on the Facebook community. I went live real quick talking about different views of notation in the app and how to toggle between the finger numbers and the letter numbers in the notation. Just generally talking through the toolbar of tools that we have above the notation. That kind of segues into this. How to get the most out of the app. So many of you are app subscribers here in the YouTube channel. I know that. For those who are not, first of all, you got to get the app. What are you waiting for? Second of all, some of this stuff may be new to you. So in addition to writing your questions and comments for David, let us know if you are an app member or if you don't have the app. That'll help us frame some stuff up too. But David, why don't I just start with you? Just kind of, what's up? How you doing? It's been a weird year. For those who are new to Playground and to you, give us a little bit about yourself, maybe how you got started on the piano. I'm sure that could be a short or a long thing, so feel free to share what you want. But people are really inspired by your story and how you helped start Playground from scratch. So maybe you could introduce yourself with that in mind.
Yeah, sure, definitely. And I'll try to keep this brief because it can go on for a while, this story of mine. But
it all started.
I know that a lot of you. No. Yeah, really. I know a lot of you guys here probably have heard the story before, but for those who have not, basically, it started in 1994 for me. So I was about 10 years old at that time. Love the piano, and this is one of the reasons why I love doing this, because it just takes me back to the beginning for myself and just the feeling of learning an instrument for the first time and a desire to really want to learn, specifically the piano. I loved the sound of the piano. I had never played a piano before, but I picked up that every song that I heard on the radio that had a piano in it, I instantly loved. It was just the best instrument to me in the world, and at the time, I got a keyboard for that Christmas, and that was the same year that The Lion King came out, and a big movie that I loved watching, and I loved the music from that, a lot of it from Elton John. I just basically sat in my room and tried picking up the music from that soundtrack on that little cassette tape, and before I knew it, I was able to pick up things by ear, kind of develop my ear over time, and fast forward from age 10 to post-college for me. I guess it kind of started in college. I started doing YouTube covers. That's when YouTube Verse came out. A lot of the social platforms were actually coming out. I still remember when Facebook came when I was in college. That was pretty interesting. It was very different then.
Very different.
But anyway.
It was thefacebook.com. It was very different.
It was a Facebook. You needed a .edu email address in order to have an account. Very different. But anyway, started doing YouTube covers. YouTube was a very new platform at the time. And before I knew it, I put up a few videos, and the video that you guys called out today on the live, Apologize, I dropped that and got millions of views on that one. People started watching from all over the world, and that kind of catapulted me into this world of, I already loved playing the piano, but it kind of inspired me to want to share playing the piano that much more with the world, I guess, through this new platform, YouTube. And so I kept posting videos, and through that medium, I was able to meet Chris Vance, all the way from New York. I was in California at the time, and we basically came together and said, hey, we want to make this piano learning app that teaches people how to play piano. And at the time, I was the only teacher in it, and I said, yeah, let's do it. I love piano, I love teaching, and I know there's a lot of people out there want to learn how to play piano as well. And so that kind of started the whole process. And fast forward to 2021, and here we are now. We have Phil as another great teacher of ours, and we're going to be rolling out some more in the near future. A lot of people using the app, a lot of people learning how to play piano, and we're all really excited about it.
Man, yeah, that's right. I know that, let's see, how long has it been? However long it's been since we started Day One Playground, seen a lot of different twists and turns to get to the point where we're at
definitely.
Now.
Yeah,
it's exciting, and we're so happy to see, our student base continue to grow and just be active,
Oh yeah.
So speaking of that, let's jump right into some questions from some people here in the chat, because we're getting them coming
Sure.
through. This is a great question from Jamie H. And I'm just going to pull some random ones up, David. I think that, we talk about how we got started on the piano, what inspired us. You just told us your story. But we don't talk as often about like the ruts that we might get into, right? And maybe you lose some momentum. How do you get back into it? So this is a question from Jamie H. What's the best way to get back into playing? I made it up to class 75 in the rookie level in December of 2020. Tried getting back into it a few days ago from where I left off, and it was a disaster. That's from Jamie. So,
Okay.
Maybe any tips, advice you have for Jamie with that in mind?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I completely feel what you're going through, Jamie. I remember just thinking back to my experiences. I've been playing piano for most of my life, but I wasn't always playing piano. There were periods of time in my life where I kind of stepped away, or I just didn't have the time, or I just got caught up in other things, and I just didn't really play on the instrument as much. And I too kind of had that yearning for, I want to get back into it. I need to get back into it. And for me, what helped was just going back to what inspired me to do it in the first place, which was Lion King. I would just listen to the Lion King music. I would go sit down at a keyboard or sit down at a piano and just start playing different Lion King songs. And that kind of sparked that love for wanting to play the piano in me again. And before I knew it, I was transferring that to a bunch of other things that I liked playing and then wanting to learn more stuff. So I definitely would say, at least for that component, I would advise, if you feel like you want to get back into it and you feel like maybe you're running into different roadblocks, or you're not building up the motivation that you felt like maybe you once had, or that you feel like you need to keep going, just go back to what got you into piano in the first place. Go back to kind of your first love with piano, and whether it was a song or whether it was a movie or whether it was a piece that you learned, I'd say to just revisit that, and I'm sure you'll get that spark you need. Now, getting back into the boot camp, if you've been away for a while, I definitely wouldn't advise jumping right back into where you left off, because there might be a little bit of rust is what you're experiencing. I would advise maybe taking a few steps back, go back to some of the earlier lessons and kind of build your way back up to lesson 75. Now, you'll likely notice that you'll be able to get to 75 much faster this time than when you were originally working your way up through it. But definitely take a step back so you can take a step forward in this case. And once you get back there, I'm sure you'll pick up right where you left off.
Great point, David. I mean, in your practicing, typically there's a couple of things going on. You sit down, you play something you love to play. Maybe you already know it, so you're not really like learning or challenging yourself. And then there's some parts of your practice time where you're working on something new, and often it doesn't sound great yet because you're working it out, right? And those are two very different things. So if you're working on the challenge portion and you stop playing for a few months and you jump right back into the challenge, that could be even more challenging, of course, right? So
Yeah.
David has a great point. Jump into the part that you just love to do. Don't worry if it's progressing you on that path. You'll get back onto that. But you got to rekindle the passion too, not just the challenge part. Right?
Definitely.
Nice. All right, let's keep them coming. And those of you who are watching, if you haven't written a question or comment yet, make sure you do. We're going to spend some good time with David today. Yvonne Temple. Hey, Yvonne. Yvonne says, David, when are you going to squeeze out time for a new YouTube video?
Oh man, I am itching to do that. So, as many of you probably knew, I was living in Brooklyn up until I've been in New York for the past like 5 years. But basically, when COVID hit and everything was shut down, I decided to head west. So I'm currently in California right now, and I've been here since November. The positive to that is I have beautiful weather. I don't have any New York storms to have to worry about. But the downside to that is I'm not around the keyboard. I'm not around the piano. So I'm not playing, and I kind of miss that right now. But I'm planning to go back to New York very soon, at which point I will be back in front of a keyboard, back in front of a piano. And at that point, I will definitely be back on YouTube putting more videos up. So I say, give me about a couple months. I'm itching for it myself as well. And then you can see some more stuff get out.
That's right. And, Elta John asks, David, can you play for a few minutes? I bet many of you may want to see that, but he's not in front of the keyboard today. How about this?
The only keyboard I have is this right now.
Yeah, you can pull up one of those software programs that allow you to play that as a musical keyboard. Have you ever tried to play those? Those are hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very difficult.
So Elta, and anyone else wanting to catch some of David's playing, let's commit to the next time we have David on live, let's have him be back in New York at the keyboard so we can incorporate some playing.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Here's a question that's kind of also related a bit, but Lily May Music is asking, does David have any original compositions? And if not, is that something that is to come, or are you sticking in the covers world, or what's your plan for your own music?
Yeah, great question, Lily. So I do have original compositions. I think I only have 2 of them that I've actually released. I enjoy playing cover songs. I think the beauty of playing a cover song, at least for me, is it's usually a song that you already enjoy, right? You already love, you already have some sort of connection to it. And for me, by translating it into a piano version is a way for me to have, as strange as it may sound, a closer connection to that song. Oftentimes I'll have the song stuck in my head and I'll hum it, I'll whistle it, maybe even sing it depending on what it is. Once I change it into a piano cover, I feel like it often comes from out of my head and into my hands. And I feel like I'm that much closer to it. So I think I'm always going to do piano covers, but at the same time, I just love the piano. I love the way it sounds. And I love just kind of sitting down and noodling and coming up with all my own original stuff. I feel like that's a very fun experience for me. So I will put out more original compositions, I'm sure, in the near future. Like I said, I only have about a couple out right now. But it's all just playing piano for me, the way that I see it. And so whether it's a cover, whether it's an original, I love playing it. I love sharing it and having people hopefully enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoy playing it.
Awesome. Can't wait for that. So here's a question from Ruth Elrod. And maybe this can tie a bit into maybe how we like to use the app or how to get the most out of the app. Ruth's question is, David, do you use scales or Hanon for warming up or something else?
Yes. So it depends sometimes, to be honest. I think kind of rooted in the way that I've learned how to play piano. My background is just kind of hearing songs and playing by ear. I never was really accustomed to walking up to a piano and kind of sitting and playing different scales or playing different drills to kind of get me going. It was always just I go sit at a piano and I just jump right into whatever the song is that I want to sit down and play. I definitely understand and have picked up through my years of playing piano the value of getting familiar with scales and hand exercises and everything else kind of in that realm, as it helps build your finger dexterity and just makes playing in different keys and everything that much more comfortable. So occasionally I'll do it. If I'm revisiting a song that I haven't played in a really long time, I might sit down and kind of play the scale through maybe once or twice to just reacquaint myself with the key of the song. And I would definitely advocate for you guys, those who have unlocked that content in our app, to try incorporating that into your practice as well. Whether you're someone who likes to usually just kind of jump down and start playing a lesson in the boot camp or a lesson in the course or a song, I think you'll find that if you devote a little bit of time to playing through some of the scales, or at a minimum play through the scale that's related to the song that you're actually playing or the song that you're actually learning, that you will see some value out of that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, scale exercises, hand exercises, things like that, they shouldn't really exist in a vacuum unrelated to everything else that you're playing. They should be serving what your playing goals are, or your song goals. And so to David's point, if you're working on a song, let's say that's in the key of E flat major, for example, and you're not really familiar with that key, then maybe your warm-up for your practice sessions as you're working on that song could be the E flat major scale, right? It's not just doing a scale for the scale's sake, or for, vague technique's sake. It should actually also be to serve a specific purpose, like I'm going to do the scale that this song is in, and just could warm you up for that song. Yeah, I do the same way.
I feel like, yeah, I love the way you frame that. I think at the end of the day, you guys have to remember that these drills and these different technique things are there to serve a larger purpose. You're not sitting there playing scales just to say, I'm good at playing scales. Like, scales serve a specific function, as does the hand exercise, as does anything else. And those different functions usually ladder up to being able to play a song or to play something, a piece, easier or faster.
Absolutely. And here's a quick plug for the app. Scales, Hannon, these are some of the most classic warm-ups, timeless, and we've got interactive notation for both in the app. So we have the song store. That's where you're going to download a song that you love to listen to, you want to learn how to play it. The boot camp is where you're going to learn the fundamentals for if there's something that you're not really understanding in that song. In the courses tab, you're going to see scales, Hannon, and some other things like reading music courses. These courses can be like deeper dives for practicing, and I highly encourage you guys to download some of the scales course lessons and try some of the Hannon lessons as well as warm-ups, for sure. So thanks for that question. I'm seeing a question from Meatloaf Crazy and from not Meatloaf Normal, Meatloaf Crazy.
Yeah, love it.
And a question, a similar question from Alan Hudson. Wait. Yes, sorry. So Meatloaf Crazy and Alan Hudson are both asking, are there going to be more songs coming to the song store that have videos? Maybe you want to speak to that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Great question. And in fact, I guess we can drop a little nugget here, live and in person for you guys, because you're here. Our next challenge is going to kick off next week. And that is going to feature the one and only Phil Anderson in a song with video-led lessons. And the big difference between this versus a lot of the other challenges I'm sure you guys have spent some time in is this is going to be more in our song format, as opposed to a lot of the other challenges where they're more kind of, I guess we could call them internally, the more boot camp style or the courses style. So we're going to release a song. I won't say what it is yet. I guess I'll withhold that as a surprise, but we will have a song that we're releasing next week, video lessons with Phil, and that will be the next challenge. And that's going to help kick us off actually down this road where we're going to incorporate more videos into our songs for our song store. It's something that we've been investing a lot of time in internally, just kind of figuring out what the best methods are. We've done some interviews. I don't know, maybe some of you on this live, I've actually spoken with some of these interviews to get your insights on how we should move forward with the songs with video lessons. And it's something that we're really excited about rolling out very soon.
That's right. I'm pumped too. Yeah. I mean, A couple things that I can add to that. You know, David being out of New York, it has limited his ability to shoot, you know, lessons as well. And so it's just been me for a while in this COVID world. You know, Wei Chen on our team has added a little bit of video, you know, demos for our Instagram and things like that. But I'm excited to be introducing a new teacher for playground sessions on the YouTube channel for now. And having him around, that's coming soon, a couple weeks. Having him around is going to help me be able to shoot more stuff for the app as well. And we're continuously trying to find ways to produce more video content for you guys in the app. So that's going to help as well. And yeah, more to come on that. Our next one starts next week, right, David?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's exciting. And from there, we'll continue to look for opportunities to add more to the song store.
I gotta say, man, these live Q&As are great ways to get insider information.
Yeah, man, direct communication, direct line from the customers. You guys, this is really valuable. All right, so let's take another question here. This one might be hard for David to answer because he's not at a piano. But you know what? I'll go ahead and take a stab at it. And David, you could add something if you feel. But Mark Perrins asks, since we were talking about warm-ups, any tips for using arpeggios in practice? I would say that if you're not looking, Mark, if you're not playing a specific piece that has a specific arpeggio part written out, and instead you just want to kind of do arpeggio warm-ups or exercises, then you can do anything. I mean, you can, and what I like to do is take a C major chord or any kind of a triad that you're familiar with and split it up into a couple different ways. First I'll go, then I'll pause, I'll move up an octave, do it again, pause, move up an octave. And then I do that until that's easy. Then my practice time is dedicated to shrinking the gap between the octaves. So I would then do this, move quicker, move quicker. And eventually my goal is to have 0 gap. And then you can come back down and you can speed it up. So there's all sorts of ways you can go with that. But I would say that my tip for you, without knowing exactly where you are in your arpeggio journey, would be to get your chord structure and your motion right with gaps, then work on eliminating the gaps so that you're playing even timing and even rhythms. Even if it's slow. Slow is okay. What you want is even. Last thing I'll say is you want to make sure that one note isn't jumping out with volume. Typically when you try and move up an octave quickly, our nature might be to smack down on that higher note like this. And you want to avoid that. You want to make sure that all your notes are more or less even dynamic. So a couple things to think about. David, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Phil basically hit it on the head. Those were the things that I was going to point out as well. I love arpeggios, and I incorporate those into any piano covers that I create as often as I can because I just love them. I love how they feel in my hand. I love how they sound. Yeah. The main thing for me is when working on the arpeggios, usually they're going to be notes that are outlining a shape of a chord. And more specifically a triad, whether it's root position, first inversion or second inversion. So for me, what I find helpful is if I'm playing an arpeggio that maybe moves up the keyboard or moves down the keyboard, first I just want to make sure that I'm getting that chord structure right. So I'm just going to play that block chord. I'm going to play whatever that pattern is in that block chord. And then I'm going to move to the next one. As Phil was pointing out, I'm going to get familiar with that pattern in that block chord and then just keep going. Then the hard part is the transition. So just make sure that, slowly, if you're playing, 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, and then you have to jump up to another chord and you come down with your 1, just practice that transition over and over again, build that muscle memory, and then rinse and repeat. A lot of this stuff is really just muscle memory and just getting comfortable with it. The more comfortable with it you are, the faster you'll be able to play it, the faster you'll be able to transition. So for me, get the chord structure, get the pattern, and then work on the transitions, and definitely watch out for when you transition, as Phil pointed out, coming out really hard on that transitional note. I think with that, you'll be able to see some good progress with playing arpeggios.
Yeah. A couple questions about expression here. I had one. Okay, so there's two. Yvonne Temple asks, David, how do you decide what expression you'll use in a piece of music? And then I also see a question from Elta John. Do you ever find yourself getting lost in a song as a piano player when you're putting your own expression into the music? Sometimes I do this and find that I lose focus and maybe make errors. So two questions related to expression. What's your approach to that?
I love these questions, man. They're so good. Okay, so the first question, the choice of what expression to add and I guess when. So, yeah, this is one of those moments I wish I was at a piano.
Yeah, true. That's another one that's easier to kind of just demo.
Yeah, we'll revisit this question again when I'm in front of a piano to demonstrate. But basically, the idea is, for me, I like playing a lot of ballads. I like playing a lot of slower songs on piano. And those usually are the songs that lend themselves the best to adding your own different kinds of expression into them. Generally, I don't want to call them rules, but I guess my tendencies are, if I'm playing a piece of music and I am playing through, let's call it the verse, and I notice that the melody tends to move up, maybe it comes back down, I tend to emulate that with my dynamics of what I'm playing. So I'll play it and then I'll get a little louder and then I'll kind of come down and get a little softer. And usually one thing, I absolutely love doing this, when I get a little softer, I also slow it down a little bit. That's kind of the little combo that I love throwing in. So and this is one of the beautiful things that you find often with piano. And I feel like, Phil, correct me if you have different experience. Piano is typically the only instrument you really find that in, where you really kind of manipulate the tempo of the music. You'll kind of play it at one speed and maybe slow it down a little bit as you come to a cadence, and then you'll kind of speed it back up. And that's one of the things that I love about piano, and one of the greatest ways of adding expression to it. You'll kind of work through the music, kind of get a little louder, kind of slow down and get a little softer, and then kind of pick things up. Now, obviously, you want to pick and choose how often you do that, because even that can get old listening to. But I know that's one of the choices that I often make. And aside from that, it's really just, it's hard to kind of figure out all of the right expression the first time you play through a song. You have to kind of get familiar with the song first and figure out, oh, okay, here, that's when that happens, or here, that's when that happens. Right. And then it's identifying those points where you kind of can get creative and say, okay, well, when this happens, this will probably sound really nice if I do this. And when this other thing happens, it'll sound nice if I do that. Yeah, just a lot of it comes down to playing with the dynamics. A lot of it comes down to just playing with the overall tempo, playing things whether soft or loud, playing things a tempo or slowing it down a bit. And those choices are usually just made just kind of based on how I feel after I get familiar with the song. Hopefully that helps. I wish I could demonstrate it a bit, but we can pick that back up when I'm in front of a piano.
No, I think it's a really important distinction, that because expression is all about putting feeling into it, putting your own expression into it. But to your point, David, sometimes like you don't just wing it, your first time, and because that's how you feel. You sometimes need to map it out. So like you almost with some analysis, you look at your music. Oh, the notes are going up here, and the left hand is playing an octave, for example. Okay, I'm going to get louder here. Sometimes you need to actually map that out and even practice it a little bit. So I don't want people watching to think, oh, if I want to play expressively, I somehow have to just like feel it out all in the moment. It's a thing that, just like anything else at the piano, you're going to want to sit down and practice it a little bit first. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Get comfortable with the notes. Get comfortable with kind of the structure and the movement of the notes first. Worry about that first.
Yeah.
And then once you're comfortable with that, a lot of this other stuff will become easier for you. Just by the nature of getting comfortable with the music, you have to play it probably multiple times, build up the muscle memory. And then at that point, you don't have to really think about the notes necessarily anymore. Now you can think about, what can I do to add to this, to put my own little spin, add my own little feeling into it. And a lot of that I think will start to show itself to you as you're kind of playing through it. I think that also segues into the second question, which was, so once you're actually kind of in the zone and you're playing it, do you kind of lose it? Yeah, that happens all the time to me. I'll be playing a song and I'll have my eyes closed and I'll be kind of just zoning out and just loving every note I'm hitting and loving all the sounds. And I may play something wrong, but it's important to just keep going. I mean, unless you're out performing at a concert or something like that, where, the accuracy is probably more important, or unless you're in the app and trying to get 100% score, where, the accuracy is that much more important. Just sit down and play just for the enjoyment of playing. If you miss a note here and there, who cares? Just keep playing, stay in the zone, work your way through it. And I feel like when you come out of that, you're going to enjoy that experience much more than maybe tripping up on a note here and there and feel like, oh, I got to kind of break myself from the zone and start over. That happens to me all the time.
Yeah. Yvonne's saying she noticed the speed up and the slow down in your When the Party's Over cover. That's a beautiful one, a nice one to push and pull. So for those who are listening and can't picture what David's talking about, I'll try and give you a quick example on the piano. I'll just do like a major scale because that's even notes and you can hear kind of the speeding up and the slowing down. So I'll do a 2-octave scale, and David said as the notes go higher, he likes to play them louder and maybe speed them up a little bit. And as they come down, he likes to play them quieter and slow them down a little bit. So here's my stab at that. Now those are all written out as even notes, but as we put expression into them, we can kind of flow. There's an ebb and flow to it, and so we can take some liberties with the tempo. Now, if I did that along with a metronome or in the app, with the backing track, I'd be either too fast or too slow. But that's not the place for that. As David said, sometimes you just need to sit down away from the app, away from the metronome, and just play with some feeling. That's where you really want to exaggerate the expression.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, well, here's a question to switch gears just a little bit here. Lily Mae is asking about, where was it? I just lost it. You guys are writing so much. Question for both of you, but let's direct it to David. What's it like meeting / working with Quincy Jones? Long-term goals of mine right there. That's what Lily says.
Yeah, I feel like I am one of the, I'm trying to think how many of the team have met him. So Phil, you got to meet him.
Yeah. David did, but he's not on the team actively anymore.
Yeah, David.
Did Byron?
Yeah, I'd say actually most of the New York team has met him, and then you from the Ohio team. None of the Utah team has been able to meet him yet, but yeah, Quincy. Meeting Quincy was definitely surreal. I've been fortunate enough to have a few encounters with him. I remember the first time we met Quincy, it was myself and Chris, and I think actually David might have been there for that, but there were a couple others, and we met him at his house in LA. And I mean, if meeting Quincy alone isn't already surreal, you're in the man's house, you see the Grammys on the shelves, and you see the Oscars up on the piano, and yeah, it was just mind-blowing. But he's a very down-to-earth, humble guy, and I think that's what has made not only meeting him but working with him such a pleasure. Obviously, he knows a ton of stuff about music, that goes without saying, but it's nice to get his input. It's nice to get his perspective, given all of his experience, obviously, and just all around, just a good guy. I mean, I can't say anything else about the guy. He's just nice to be around, always joking. He's got a million jokes all the time. And it's just a pleasure working with him. And I look forward to continuing that relationship. And I look forward to more of the team actually getting a chance to meet him.
Yeah.
Like I said, Phil, you've been one of the fortunate ones who's met him. What was your impression, and how did you feel when you first met the man?
Yeah, same situation. I met him at his house as well. Was first of all just blown away at that, and kind of walking through and getting to the main area where we would meet. I mean, obviously, like just a crazy house. And then we were waiting for him for a few minutes, and one of his team told me that I asked if I could play the piano, because it's like I'm like you, David. You see a piano in the room, you're just like, like you're a magnet to it.
Yeah.
And they said sure. So I was playing his piano, in his room, and he comes in. He's finishing a meeting, and so I'm playing something. And he's in the middle of talking with somebody, and but he must have recognized the song I was playing. It was like an old jazz standard. And he looks over at me and he starts singing the melody along with me, and I like kind of caught his eye, like, yeah. And then he went back into his meeting. So like he's just living and breathing music all the time. My favorite thing that Quincy says that we try and bring into the Playground Sessions mentality is, Quincy's basically like, look, there's just 12 notes, it's music. And what he means by that often is like, there's all these different genres and styles and music across the world, but like it all comes back down to just the fundamentals of like all the music we know that's supposedly so different. It's all just based off these couple of notes, and that's the building blocks of music. And that to me is like the best thing to say if someone asks why do we have classical and pop and a hip hop song and a country song. It's like, yeah, it's all music. There's all something to be learned from any of that. It's all based on the 12 notes. Quincy's a big fan of world music, and he doesn't discriminate. I love that. So thanks to Lily Mae. I hope you'll meet him one day too. He's really inspiring. He's got a big presence about him, and I feel really lucky to have met him and to be working on this product for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, I got a technical question here from Charles Smith. Charles, I did not forget you. I didn't skip you. Charles says, how would we count 16th notes in 12/8? I'm working on She's Always a Woman by Billy Joel. I'm not intimately familiar with that song off the top of my head. But this is an interesting question about counting 16th notes in general, because David, I know you kind of have a different system than I do, and Harry has a different system than we do. So maybe we can talk in general about like subdivisions for a little bit.
Yeah.
Why don't you kick us off there? Like, how do you think of subdividing, by 16th notes in general?
So my approach, I think many musicians will probably say is a bit unorthodox. The standard way of counting subdivisions usually requires just kind of counting through the numbers. Let's say you're in 4/4, and let's say you're counting eighth notes, and so each quarter note gets a beat. So every time you go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you split that in half, the syllable that's usually associated with the eighth notes is and, or the half of the count is and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now you have to split that in half again to get the 16th notes, right? I've heard a few different ways, but the way that I became accustomed to is 1 E and a. So that splits one full count into four equal parts. So 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Now, for myself, and I think a lot of this falls back on kind of my earlier experiences of which is kind of learning the piano without the more standard or more traditional approach. I think kind of think of it as like learning the language, any language, before you learned how to write it or read it. You had to learn how to speak it. So you kind of pick up on these little tricks and these little shortcuts to help you be able to function with it. And so for me, I generally tend to just associate a value with, I'll call it ticks or pulses in this case. So if I'm reading through a piece of music and I'm getting tripped up on the subdivision breakdown, what I would do is I would assign a tick or whatever type of sound you want, but I go so that's my little hi-hat tick. I would assign that to whatever the smallest duration is in that passage of music I'm working on, and then I would use that as the multiplier for all the other notes. Again, it's probably easier to conceptualize if I was at a piano, but what that does is that helps me. Once I get to a certain passage, I count, okay, I know that this note, the way it's written, gets like 3 of the smallest subdivision values. So 3 ticks. And then the note after it will get whatever, 8 ticks. And that'll at least help me get through that rough passage. And then I continue through the music. I'm not counting ticks all the way through. I kind of pick it up and count the more regular way, or just kind of feel the music as I'm playing through. But to help really make sense of those harder pockets of music and pick up the rhythm, I just kind of count whatever the smallest subdivision is and use that as the benchmark to kind of build out the rest of it. Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, so you don't put as much emphasis or importance on the syllables. You're just thinking more
Correct.
of the groups of the lowest common denominator beats.
Exactly.
And then that's a learning tool. Once you've then learned it, it's just something you're feeling at that point.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm kind of similar to that. I would say, well, first let me just speak to the 12/8 example here. So what's tricky about this is the time signature doesn't have a 4 on the bottom. When the 4 is on the bottom, a quarter note gets a beat, right? 12/8, eighth note gets a beat. So eighth notes we would count as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are eighth notes. So to get those down to 16th notes, we would just cut that in half. So we would actually say ands for the 16th notes in 12/8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and. Now, I could barely even say that on my own without playing piano. I'm sure I couldn't do that while also playing. And that's really the takeaway here, is the syllables and saying the rhythms out loud. I mean, no one's like performing a piece in a concert and saying that stuff or even thinking that in their heads, because again, it's a learning tool. That's why we can all have different systems and still arrive at the same final song. Harry says 1 ta te ta, 2 ta te ta, 3 ta te ta, right? That's different from 1 e and a, 2 e and a. It's different than David's like grouping the pulses together. But we can all, 3 of us, get to the same, like playing the correct rhythm of something. So remember that it's a learning tool. Don't get too bogged down with being able to play and count out loud with these syllables. It's really just about grouping the smaller rhythms together while keeping an even pulse. So I'll say that. But I guess for 12/8, you could think about it as there are 12 eighth notes, there are 12 beats in a measure, but technically we also think about 12/8 as more like a larger 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, where there's 4 groups of 3 beats. But again, I hope I didn't make it more complicated. Let's not get too hung up on the syllables. Let's just make sure we understand the subdivisions and the even timing.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add, just as a general approach to counting with any of the music that you're playing, is this stuff is just math. And all you're dealing with are relationships of one note to another to another. And so if you're playing through a passage of music and you know that you're running into certain types of notes, certain rhythms, and if you know what the count value is of one note, and then you know what the mathematical relationship of that note to the other note that you're working against, that's all you really need. Mm-hmm. And as Phil was saying, then you can throw whatever syllable you want on it. You can throw whatever approach on it you want. You just really need to figure out what is the mathematical value in counting or in duration of this note compared to all of the other notes around it. And if you can just isolate that small passage and figure out that small chunk of music outside of everything else, I would advise just with one hand or even just tapping on your desk and just figure that out. Then you can throw the music part back to the math part and work your way through it.
Yeah, I like that. And because it's math, because it's all about counting, it's one more plug to take things slow. You'll never hear me say that. You'll always hear me say that. Probably it'll sound like too often because it's always applicable. Slow things down. It will help with whatever you're doing. Yep. All right, we have a couple of questions here. I'm not going to ignore them about the new app. And so I just want to, I want to address it for a second. People are wondering about a new iPad app or when the new app's coming. So can you speak a little bit of that to that, David?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that we have been working very hard on this year is the release of the new iPad app, as well as the release of a new the release of a new desktop app, and then the other devices will come soon after that. But I don't know if anyone here in the group or in this live chat is also in our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group for kind of all of our users, but then we also have a separate Facebook group specifically for our beta testers. And I believe there's about 400 people in that group right now. And about half of them already have access to the new version of the iPad app and are playing around with it. We actually just released a new update, or a couple of new updates today for that app, where we're tackling different things that we're getting feedback on from our beta testers and adding new features. Like the ability to loop. I know that's a really big one that everyone's been waiting for the iPad. So we're very close. We're really excited about the progress we've made. And if any of you who are on this live stream want early access to the app by way of being a beta tester, please, I guess the easiest way to do that would be just reach out to our beta email address, which is beta, B-E-T-A, at playgroundsessions.com, and just request to have access to the beta version of the iPad. And we can see about getting you set up with it. But we're really happy with the new look of it. We're really happy with the new feel of it, the new features and everything. And we're hoping to be able to roll that out to you guys very soon. I definitely stay away from committing to specific timelines, because it really just depends on the feedback we're getting and how quickly we can solve different things that people are pointing out. But very soon, and reach out to the beta at playgroundsessions.com email address if you want access.
Yeah, and for those who aren't familiar with this kind of a process of putting out a new technology, like the testing process is crucial. It's also one of the final stages, because it's functional, right? If people are testing it, what we're really doing now is making sure that everything flows well for people, and that there are no like bugs or tech issues before we release it to everybody, right? So so that's promising in and of itself. The fact that we're in this beta test period. So yeah, really excited. And for those of you who can't wait, who are impatient, I understand. I can't wait either. Take up David on that offer. That's real. Email beta@playgroundsessions.com, and we can add you into that so you can start to get your feet wet in it, and even provide some feedback if you're down. So yep. Very excited that that's coming up here. Guys, time is flying. It's almost we've almost been talking for an hour. I love that. So. Let's see here. I want to make sure I'm not skipping anybody here. But this has been fun. Ruth Elrod is asking about if Harry Connick Jr. will have any interactions with the community or more video lessons. You want to speak to that?
Oh man, yeah. We do have plans for Harry to do more video lessons. We have some plans to potentially have him do some interaction with the community. I think we would all love that.
Oh yeah.
Everything with COVID just really threw a wrench in everything that we were working on last year. And I'm glad that it seems like for the most part, at least here in the States, that we're starting to come out of that now, which will open up opportunities again for us to revisit some of these different things that we were hoping to be able to tackle last year. And basically leading up to where we are now. But I can't make any promises, but I know that we definitely want to do more with Harry. We know that a lot of you love Harry and love learning from him, love watching him in movies and TV shows and everything like that. So it's definitely on our list of things that we are hoping that we can be able to deliver for you guys.
Yeah, he's a busy man. If we could have him on every week, my dreams would come true. But we'll take him when we can. That'd be great. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and try and find 2 more questions before we call it a day here with David. And then maybe I'll squeeze in a pop quiz here at the end as well for you guys.
You guys keep seeing me looking down. I'm looking at all your comments coming in, making sure I'm staying on top of it. I see Jeanette. Yeah, I find it pretty difficult to go back to the original app after beta testing and the new one now. Yeah, so Jeanette, you're one of our beta testers. and it seems like you are enjoying using it. And that's one of the things that we're happy about. All our beta testers have overwhelming supportive feedback and positive interactions with the app. It's a big change from our current iPad app, I will say. And so we're ready to roll that thing out as soon as we can. So keep testing, Jeanette, and everyone else who might be in this live stream who's testing.
Todd Jones asking about jazz or blues or boogie woogie courses, and wants to get better at blues and wants to get better at transposing. So a couple of good ideas there. I just want to kind of give a broad answer here for anybody who might like to see certain topics in the app, or even on YouTube only, whatever it is, just something from the Playground Sessions team. We've been trying to use User Voice, which is a free service that allows people to vote, to create a request for something, whether it's a feature request of a new app, a new song for the app, new course or boot camp topic. And then other people can upvote topics as well. So if someone voted on blues and then everyone else wanted blues, it would rise to the top. And then we on our side can see, what's the most voted on and things like that. So I would encourage you all, if you have specific stuff you'd like to see in the app and you don't see it, check out User Voice. You do have to create an account. It's just a free account. And then once you're in, you can vote on any of this stuff across multiple channels within our Playground Sessions User Voice. So I'll leave it at that. I'll say, we don't have any specific plans to put like a jazz course into the works, but we do have some jazz songs in our song store. Harry does talk a bit about genres and improvisation. If you guys want to see more of that or of anything else, vote in User Voice. Okay, well, here, let's see. Elta's asking if we can answer her question about the app. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I think I found it. If it's the one that I think it is, I think it's a good question.
Okay, go for it.
That I'll ever Elta, I believe it's this. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So how important is it to get 100% on Boot Camp app when you get the concept, but that is not a piece you want to master?
Oh, this is a great question for you, actually, David, because we talk internally sometimes about do you need 100 to move on, or is 90 or 80 or what? So let's talk about this for our last question of the day.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this question is that, and I guess the answer to this question is, everyone's piano journey and their piano goals are different, and it's a very personal journey that you all are on with your instrument. What we do in Playground is we just try to provide a way for you to reach those goals. The kind of grading aspect of it, or the feedback aspect of the application, is there for you to kind of measure yourself against some sort of benchmark. You don't have to necessarily get 100% if you feel like you've picked up on whatever it is that you want to pick up on. If you can take away what you want to take away from that lesson and pick up the main ideas of that, but maybe you don't want to invest the time to play or master the song that's being used as the example for that concept, that is 100% fine to do. I know that a lot of this is going to come down to be honest, different personality types. I feel like I have the type of personality where I would be a user who feels like I need to get 100% on everything I do. Not only once, I got to get it 5 times in a row. Otherwise, I feel like I don't really have it. And maybe the other time I got 100% was just luck. I am very much that kind of user. But there are other users who feel like, I picked up on the concept, and that's the most important thing here. I don't have to get 100%, and that is perfectly fine. Wherever you fall on that spectrum is really up to you and your own personal journey with the piano. So to answer your question directly, no, you don't have to get 100%. If you want the green check mark, you do have to at least get 80 though. But feel free to move through the lessons at whatever pace with whatever scores you desire. If it's as much as 100, do that. If it's another percentage, do that, it's really up to you.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't have anything to add to that. I think that's perfect. I think that's why we have the green check mark at 80%, because we feel in general, this is a general statement, of course, but if you can do something at about 80%, you pretty much got at least the gist of what you're trying to get out of that. Now, that's a subjective statement, you know. So, if we're in a traditional school grading system, that'd be like a B, B minus. Maybe you think, I got to get an A, so at least a 90. You know, but that's, as David said, it's your own personal bar that you're setting for yourself. If you're getting 45% and you're moving on, that's your right to do that. That's why we don't, you know, have all the lessons ahead of where you are blocked, right? You can still go to those lessons, but just know that you're probably not taking along with you those skills if you're not getting around that 80 or higher. But you're welcome to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Guys, this has been a great conversation. I'm going to ask one more question here, and this is another pop quiz. This is a free song credit opportunity for you guys. I'm looking for the first 3 correct answers, and you all will each win 1 free song credit. The question is this: when David Sides was a young David Sides, before he was a piano player, there was a song that spoke to him, that drew him to the piano, and it started this journey for him. He mentioned it up front. What was that song that inspired David? I'll give you a hint. It's from a movie soundtrack. I need the first 3 correct answers. And a bonus free song credit will go to anyone who tells me the composer of that song. Wait, did you say a song, or did you just say the movie?
I said the movie.
You just said the movie. Okay, so we're going to alter that.
I will drop a hint in the chat now.
I messed it up.
And see who picks it up.
So that's a good point. So it's going to be from the movie. The bonus goes to what's the actual song from the movie. And I'm just going to let you guys type for a second. All right, they're flying in now. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So, David, why don't you go ahead and answer this one and pick the winners. We're looking for the first 3 correct answers, and if anyone has the song/composer, they can get a bonus.
So the song that really drew me in to want to learn how to play from the Lion King soundtrack was "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" The Elton John version, because there were 2. There were the original score, and then there was an Elton John version of it as well.
Okay.
But "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" That was the one that got me.
So those are both bonus answers. The answer, because of the way I worded the question, that was my bad. The correct answer is going to be Lion King. That's the movie, right? So it looks like Chelsea Bridges, looks like Lily May Music, although she put a question mark. She wasn't too confident, but she wrote it nonetheless. And then Jamie H. all got Lion King. The first person to say Elton John was also Lily May. So Lily, we're going to skip you on this one. I hope you're cool with sharing the glory here. Charles Smith, was he one of the original winners? No, so Charles Smith, you get a bonus. And Lynn Stewart, you get a bonus. So we've got 5 winners for this pop quiz question. All of you each get 1 free song credit. Go ahead and reach out to support@playgroundsessions.com to redeem. One more time, that's Chelsea Bridges, Lily May Music, Jamie H., and then Charles Smith and Lynn Stewart. Great job, you guys. Well, I hope you guys had as much fun as I did having David Sides live with us. David, we want to say thanks for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on next time you're at your piano. We can get some of that playing in the mix as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. It was great checking in with you. I look forward to doing more of these.
Thanks for tuning in, you guys. I'll see you next week in the Facebook community, and next month, the final Wednesday of every month, by the way, we'll be back here live on YouTube. Thanks, everybody.